This story happened to me a few weeks ago. The events I was destined to experience drastically changed my life, and now, frankly, I don't know what to do next. I'm writing this so people know the truth, because God knows I'm innocent. My name is Ivan Toptunov, and recently my best friend Artyom and I trespassed into the well-known Chernobyl exclusion zone. How did we get to this point? You ask. It was all because of a cult game that inspired many adventurers and other thrill seekers to make insanely dangerous trips to the infamous ghost town. It was the first day of my long-awaited vacation. I had worked very hard all year and therefore had a wild desire to change the environment, to relax a little and take a good rest from my boring routine life. That's when Artyom came to my aid with a very tempting offer to go with him on a small extreme hike. As it turned out, my friend had been diligently preparing for the trip to the Chernobyl exclusion zone for several months. During this time, Tioma managed to acquire all the necessary equipment, as well as get acquainted with one experienced stalker who kindly shared valuable information, how best and safest to get into Pripyat and where you can stay overnight. In general, I was immediately bribed by the fact that Tiomik took the matter so seriously, and moreover, waited for my vacation to visit such an exotic place together. Therefore, I did not start to dwell on it for a long time and still agreed to go with him on this damn hike. It took me a couple of days to complete all my household chores and pack some things, and then on the appointed day, we met my friend and finally set off. We drove for quite a long time. We definitely wound up 1,500 kilometers by train, and I'm not even taking into account the exhausting road by car in 30-degree heat. According to the plan, we first, of course, got to Kiev, where one of Artyom's acquaintances met us, Uncle Grisha. He was a sturdy man, appearing to be around 40, who for some reason always wore camouflage military fatigues and combat boots. I learned from a friend that Gregory had been transporting people to the outskirts of the zone for many years, and so far no one had complained. Overall, he was considered reliable and trustworthy. We reached the drop-off point around noon. Uncle Grisha stopped his Zhiguli right on the highway near the forest, about 3 or 4 kilometers from a military checkpoint, and after giving us a serious look, dryly said, "Sorry guys, but I won't take you any further. If they stop you in Yakim and find out you don't have entry permits, it won't be good." "Okay, but you'll tell us which way to go, right?" "Man, we paid you. What's wrong?" After my friend's words, a tense silence hung in the car. Frowning, Gregory continued to look sternly at us for a moment, then a wide smile spread across his face, and he laughed loudly. "You wound me, Artyom. Where am I going to go? You're my job too, damn it. Guys, you should have seen your faces." All right, listen carefully. If you go straight along the highway, a military patrol will definitely stop you in about 3 or 4 kilometers. And I won't lie to you, they're real bastards. They squeeze money out of you, turn you over to the cops, so it's better not to be seen by them. Now you need to go deep into the forest, preferably 300 or 400 meters, and then turn right and move parallel to this road. If you do everything right, you'll reach the barbed wire in about 40 minutes. And from there, it's just a stone's throw to Pripyat. Just remember one rule. It's not a completely ordinary abandoned city. There are all sorts of dangers around, from radiation to local inhabitants. So, extra vigilance won't hurt. Well, I think I've said everything. Good luck to you there, guys, and see you later. Stepping onto the highway, Artyom and I watched the departing vehicle, which, according to our agreement, was supposed to pick us up at the same spot in exactly 2 days, after which we safely disappeared into the forest and headed towards the perimeter of the zone. The barbed wire fence was crossed too easily without even needing wire cutters, as the barrier had been thoroughly vandalized, as if dozens of others had passed through here to Pripyat. Since Chernobyl has long been public knowledge and anyone can enter the zone these days, I didn't dwell on this strange detail and just kept following Artyom. The dead city was striking in its scale and desolate emptiness. A hopeless and desperate atmosphere reigned among the soulless high-rises and overgrown streets, attracting atomic romantics like a magnet. As soon as my companion and I plunged into the gloom of the gray panel buildings, we were immediately enveloped in oppressive silence. No wind, no birdsong. It was hard to believe that just a few decades ago, children ran happily in these very streets, mothers strolled with strollers, and young couples dreamed of a great future. Unfortunately, this whole idyll was destroyed in one day, and now only a huge concrete structure remains without its inner workings. For a couple of days, Pripyat was at our disposal. During this time, we had to visit all the local sites and, like true stalkers, spend 2 whole nights in an empty apartment. The route plan, as I told Artyom earlier, was drawn up by an experienced guy who knew the city like the back of his hand and visited it almost more often than his own home. First, of course, we visited the city center where the well-known Polisia Hotel and energetic palace of culture stood. And a little later, we moved to the city park, where the rusty Ferris wheel still slumbers in a deathly sleep. Rumor has it that this attraction never worked, as its launch was planned for May 1st, 1986, just in time for Labor Day. However, due to the terrible accident that occurred 5 days before the holiday, this long-awaited event was never to happen. Throughout our walk, we actively photographed interesting subjects like panel buildings with empty window openings and abandoned cars we occasionally encountered. We took so many pictures that Artyom and I spent almost half the evening by the campfire, studying them at our temporary shelter. I was the first to crash, probably from exhaustion after a long day, while Artyom, on the contrary, was full of energy and kept staring at his phone, examining something very closely. Suddenly, a loud voice from my very worried friend jolted me from sleep into a grim reality. "Vanya, wake up! I think I found something!" Rubbing my eyes and looking at the time, I was a little stunned. It was just after 2 a.m. "Dude, let's sleep. We'll look at what you found tomorrow," I replied sleepily to Artyom, closing my eyes again. "No, I'm not kidding. You have to see this." Fully awake, I was annoyed. I took the phone and carefully looked at the photo that was bothering my friend. It showed another abandoned building, of which there are countless in Pripyat. At first, I didn't notice anything suspicious, and was about to scold Artyom for his stupid prank when a slightly blurred human silhouette standing by a third-floor window unexpectedly caught my attention. The first odd thing was that the stranger was wearing an old gas mask with a hose, which, frankly, wasn't really necessary, since the air in Pripyat today is much cleaner than in many living cities. But secondly, the unknown person, judging by his pose, was clearly watching someone very closely, and that was unsettling. Probably because we hadn't met a single living person all day, and there was no one else to watch but us. Come on, so some idiot is standing there in a gas mask, but the kid overdid it, no big deal. So what if we don't sleep all night because of this? I said to Artyom a little uncertainly, continuing to examine the strange shot. "Yeah, you're probably right. It's just this atmosphere. I feel like we're not alone here, and it's unsettling. Sorry for waking you. Let's sleep." Extinguishing the embers of the fire, Tyoma snatched the phone from my hands, then crawled into his sleeping bag and after a while began to snore as if nothing had happened. There were no more incidents that night. Admittedly, the morning in summer Pripyat is simply unforgettable. Crystal clear skies, unreal freshness, and the dazzling beauty of the sunlight. A fairy tale, there's no other way to describe it. Artyom and I woke up relatively early, by the alarm, quickly took care of our morning routines, and then lit a fire again and started heating up food. After finishing a completely tasteless breakfast of some kind of canned food, we downed diluted coffee, tidied up the place, packed all our things, and finally set off. As soon as I stepped outside, I was immediately overcome with panic. Right in the middle of the road, about 100 meters from our entrance, a rather tall and sturdy man stood motionless, staring at us intently, as if we had really offended him. What scared me the most was the stranger's appearance. He was wearing an old gas mask with a half-severed hose on his head, and a dirty, worn-out jumpsuit on his body, the kind that workers usually wear in factories. In short, the guy's appearance was something else. Surprisingly, unlike me, Artyom wasn't scared for a second. On the contrary, he seemed to perk up and cheerfully greeted the uninvited guest. "Hey buddy, greetings to fellow stalkers. How are your mornings?" The answer was the same oppressive silence. "Tyomik, I somehow feel like he doesn't really want to talk to us. Let's get out of here. We'll improve it later," I said to my friend, not taking my eyes off the suspicious stranger. Forget it, we'll get this big guy talking. Let's go. I didn't understand where Artyom's reckless courage came from, but I couldn't do anything about it, so I had no choice but to follow my daredevil friend and hope for the best. What's with the gloomy face, pal? Didn't haul much loot, Oleg, huh? My partner said cheerfully, approaching the stranger and extending his hand. The man openly ignored the friendly gesture and continued to silently stare at us through the dusty lenses of his old gas mask. I don't know how long we stood there, playing staring contest with this weirdo, but at some point the eerie silence was broken by a quiet, barely audible humming. The madman was humming some unknown melody to himself. Frankly, it looked pretty creepy. So creepy that even Artyom's courage vanished in an instant, and he, his face changing, took a couple of steps back. All right, buddy, I guess we're not going to have a conversation. Let's go, Vanya. Let's not waste time. As soon as Tyoma finished the sentence and started to walk around the hulk on the left, he suddenly came to life and stepped towards my friend, pushing him with his shoulder. The situation was heating up more and more with each passing second. Perfectly aware that getting acquainted with this strange man would not bode well for us, I decided to take the initiative, abruptly pulled a hunting knife out of my pocket. Listen here, asshole. Go your own way. Got it? We're tourists. We don't need trouble, but if you push my friend one more time, I'll pull your eye over your ass. Am I making myself clear? Let's go, Artyom. I shouted loudly to my partner, cautiously stepping behind the psycho and moving in the direction our route initially led us. Only when Tyoma and I had moved a decent distance away did I dare to turn back to check what the frightening stranger was doing. And, I wish I hadn't. The person in the gas mask was still standing in the same spot and waving his hand like someone seeing us off at a train station. Here's the translation. The sight intensified my fear, and I quickened my pace to get the hell out of that street. That unpleasant incident this morning ruined our mood for the rest of the day. We walked mostly in silence, carefully looking around, trying to avoid another encounter with that hulking guy who, judging by his aggressive behavior, clearly had mental issues. Fortunately, nothing else happened. Around 8 p.m., we successfully completed our 2-day route and headed to find new lodging using Artyom's coordinates. We found the house containing the shelter quickly enough. I remember it was near Lenin Avenue in the 2nd district, right next to the Pripyat checkpoint. After making sure we weren't being followed, my friend and I entered the correct entrance and went up to the 4th floor, then, as usual, began preparing for another night in the serene city. So, Vanek, how do you like our vacation in the Chernobyl fairy tale? Admit it, it was a good trip, right? Tima asked, sitting by the fire and scooping canned food with a fork. Yeah, good, if you don't count that 2-meter guy with a knife who almost attacked you, I retorted, watching my friend engrossed in eating stew. Oh, we're so sensitive. We used to chase away thugs on the street every day, and now you're scared of one idiot. What a brave guy. No, Artyom, you don't understand. This is completely different. When that guy pushed you, I even noticed a certain bloodthirst in his eyes through the dirty lenses of my gas mask. Didn't it seem strange to you that he seemed to know where we were and where we were going next? Damn it, stop scaring me. What are you implying? You mean to say that this guy is following us? There's definitely a connection between that photo you showed me last night and this morning's encounter. So I think we should avoid this creep until... Suddenly, I heard a loud bang from the 1st floor, like someone deliberately slammed an old wooden door shut and entered the building. The suddenness of the sound took my breath away, and I started shaking from the adrenaline rush. Shit, quiet. Someone's on the 1st floor, Tomek whispered, quickly getting out of his sleeping bag. I didn't feel like joking about my friend's logical reasoning under the circumstances, so I decided to remain silent and, following Artyom's example, began to quickly free myself from the sleeping bag. Okay, Van, I'm going to check who's prowling around at night, and you stay here and don't stick your head out, okay? Artyom said, taking a gun out of his backpack and carefully loading it. No way. I'm going with you. I started to object, but Tema immediately stopped me. I don't need to accidentally shoot you in the dark. Just stay here and don't get in the way. I'll handle it, I promise. my friend said as he slowly disappeared into the darkness of the hallway. Those were the longest and scariest 10 minutes of my life. I sat by the battered front door and nervously listened to the deathly silence that enveloped everything around me. I had a wild desire to follow Artyom to cover his back if necessary, but common sense and my friend's warnings urged me to stay put and not move. The unsettling silence was shattered by 3 deafening gunshots, compelling me to drop everything and rush to my friend's aid. In my haste, I forgot my trusty hunting knife, a lifesaver on the streets. I only realized this upon reaching the ground floor, sensing an ominous presence. "Artyom? Artyom?" I whispered, cautiously moving through the dark hallway, but he didn't respond, fueling my panic. A strange rustling sound from a derelict apartment caught my attention. With no other choice, I gritted my teeth, steeled myself, and headed towards the noise. As I cracked open the sticky old door, my flashlight revealed Artyom's bloodied face, slowly approaching the light. He desperately tried to warn me, but blood gurgling from his mouth prevented him. Before I could move, an axe struck him in the back, ending his suffering. It was him, the tall man in the gas mask. The maniac stood motionless across the hall, his gaze still menacing, humming that familiar tune. Somehow, fear turned to rage. Instead of fleeing, I dropped to the floor, grabbed my friend's gun a few feet away, and unloaded bullet after bullet at the bloodthirsty killer. Whether I hit him or not, I can't say, but I managed to scare him off. The murderer seemed to anticipate my actions, dodging the gunfire before leaping out the window and vanishing into the darkness of the dead city. I didn't know who to turn to or what to do, as the only person who knew the area, Artyom, was now dead in a pool of his own blood. Without a better idea, I ran out of the building and towards Lenin Avenue, hoping to find someone to help. I was overjoyed to see a military UAZ and 3 soldiers with guns running towards me, about 100 meters away. "Stop, or I'll shoot! Drop the gun!" In my shock, I'd forgotten to drop my weapon, so they naturally assumed I was a dangerous armed criminal. No matter how much I tried to explain, they wouldn't believe me, which was understandable. I probably wouldn't have believed it myself if I'd heard gunshots and then seen some weirdo with a gun. My dead friend's body was found that night. They naturally wanted to pin the crime on me since there were no other suspects. However, it wasn't that simple. My fingerprints weren't on the murder weapon, and the cops didn't understand why I would kill my partner with an axe when I had a gun. In short, many questions, no answers. For weeks, I've been under investigation as the main suspect in the Chernobyl case, and no one believes my version of events. Screw them. The main thing is, I know the truth, and I'll avenge my friends sooner or later.